I'm Simon Bridges, aka Peter. Right, so got a few wee things just to go. Nothing major, just a wee update more than anything else. So I wanted to kind of explain the ethos behind Tweet Street. So best way to kind of do that, or for me the best way to do it, I think, is like a show and tell. So without further ado, so this is the YouTube page here, right? Just and in the about section, the description, Scottish independence is the goal. A seriously satirical approach to biased mainstream media reporting and political liars. Cutting through all the bull crap from a Scottish independence point of view. Right? And that was just how to set up myself, JB, satirical satire. So, a bit of satire. I'll get to why I'm doing this just shortly. Right, so satire, the use of humour, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticise people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics or other topical issues. Mockery, ridicule, derision, scorn, caricature, irony, sarcasm, right? You get the gist. So, a couple of years ago, I decided that I was going to do a wee project, a social media project, nonetheless. And I thought the best way to do it would have been by using stuff that was all available on social media. So I set myself a project, and I've managed projects in the past, so I had a rough idea of it today. Some people might think, oh, it's no went well. It's went well. It's been all right, whatever, right? So I just wanted to go through like something else I want to share with you. If you use social media at all, you'll know that you can find pretty much anything that people have put on. But same with computers and that, right? What if you know about computers? You know, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to programming and stuff like that. But computers and they're like they can be hacked. So if you really want to keep your thoughts private, don't put it on a computer, right? Don't put it on a computer. Put it somewhere else. Bit of paper. Like I'll put a picture of this up. So a couple of years ago, this is where it started. Started with me doing a wee drawing. Here, this wee drawing here. Right, that wee thing there. Right. And then social media project. Right. I'll put a picture of this up. A wee bit. So the name, Tweet Street Scotland. The aims of the project was to highlight mainstream media bias, political lies. The target, I was going to try and do it through genuine conversation. The audience, anyone who still believes mainstream media and political liars. Timescale, 2 years maximum. There's a reason for the 2 years maximum. I'll get to that later. Cost, free, minimum outlay. How? Pick relevant clips from all social media platforms. Use free information, pictures, news articles, satire, humour, and irony. Goal. Aim small, miss small. So I went. 100 views on YouTube. Right? Tagline, another future is possible. It's here, another future is possible. Satirical soul tire. Right? These were the taglines. And the logo was two Scotlands side by side. Right? So that was the project. That was how it kicked off. To say, don't put in on your computer if you don't want other people to find that information. Because, let's have a wee look at this. If you've heard I'm sure his name was Gary McKinnon. This might help you a wee better. Certified ethical hackers, including 2,200 hacking tools, right? So that's like ethical hackers, right? So if you get ethical hackers, you also get unethical hackers. Now, what is ethical hacking and why is it important? Let's have a wee look at this. It's a 15-minute read. Now, you can read through that yourself. Basically, it's people. You can hire people to test out company systems, the weaknesses in them, to see how easy or difficult it is to get behind their security systems and stuff like that. Now, if you've just got a standard set up at home, then anybody with any means of talking can get in. Like the one that's kind of a springing to mind now is like fishing. Like fishing as in out beside the river, throwing your line in. So Stuart McDonald got caught out by a fishing scam, put in all his details, and they were able to get information. Now, some say that that's led to the First Minister her decision to resign. I don't believe that that's the case, personally. There was other things, and there is other things going to be coming out. But you'll see with what's happening, even today, with the three ministers that are up for the new First Minister of Scotland. So you've got Ash Regan, Kate Forbes, and Humza Useless. Right, so Humza Yusuf, sorry.
I don't understand why there's a conflict of interest. Nicola Sturgeon is not going for the contest. In fact, the contest is happening because she stood down. What I would say is I do think as part of engaging with the membership, there's a discussion to be had about internal reform. I'm very much up for that discussion. But to make it about Peter Murrow, who's a proven election winner time and time again for the SNP, I think is unfair. I don't understand why there's...
It's pretty much looking as if they're trying to get Humza Yusuf in. Now, he was in justice before, now he's in health now, right? There's not really much mention of the excess deaths that's happening in Scotland to this health minister. Or when he was in justice, the justice minister, the injustices that were carried out in Scotland, right? So it's all just like a big fudge. It's all just a big fudge. There's things going on in different countries. There's stuff going on in Ukraine.
Когда мы работали в Северодонецке, мы получили информацию от местного населения, что вот в этом месте располагалась корпорация Farm Biotest, в которой проводились какие-то исследования на людях, на жителях Северодонецка, рубежного. И мы, естественно, не могли упустить такую информацию. Мы решили проверить ее. И вот сейчас пойдем проверять. Мы находимся внутри компании Farm Biotest, Северодонецк. В компании занимались, помимо всего прочего, еще исследованиями лекарств, в том числе испытаниями этих лекарств на людях, на обычных добровольцах. Что сразу бросается в глаза, здесь посмотрите, все вывески, все названия дублируются на английском языке. Как вы видите, это действительно операторская. Здесь сидели врачи, которые наблюдали за пациентами, за испытуемыми, которые находились в том помещении. И как вы видите, документации здесь много. И все исследования, материалы исследования, материалы исследования, материалы исследования. Все материалы исследования различных препаратов на добровольцах из числа жителей Северодонецка. А скажите вообще, чем занимались вот лаборатории Фармбиос?
Ну, анализы делали.
А вот
всевозможные.
именно исследования новых лекарственных средств.
Ну, исследования, ну как, проводили исследования. Им заказывали исследования фармацевтическая компания Дарница. Там, допустим, еще кто-то заказывал.
В том числе и за границей.
Да, да, да.
И в чем заключались эти исследования? Как они проводились?
Ну вот, допустим, компания делает лекарство,
Так.
им нужно его исследовать. На ком? На людях.
На людях.
Приходят люди-добровольцы, заключают договор. Они подписывают все возможные бумаги, что наша компания за них не несет никакой ответственности.
Стратегия развития бизнеса ООО КДЦ Farm Biotest. Кстати, судя по этой маркировке, спонсорами предприятия выступали в том числе USAID и Роланд Берger, судя по всему, германская компания. Интересная ТФН-картка для сбора образцов. И причем, видите, эмблема биологической опасности. Очень много документов исследований на английском языке, причем именно американского агентства по продуктам и медикаментам. Список стандартных образцов, хранящихся в холодильной камере. То есть здесь не только в этом предприятии не только проводили исследования на людях различных лекарств, но и масштабно занимались отбором образцов. Очень много таких вот контейнеров для отбора и хранения образцов. Просто горы повсюду. Сопроводительное письмо, заказ от фармацевтической фирмы Дарница на клиническое исследование с целью составления выставка лекарственного препарата Гастротек. На исследование с участием здоровых добровольцев мужского пола при одноразовом применении после приема еды.
Они за денег сюда шли.
То есть им платили за это?
Да,
деньги?
за это им платили деньги.
А какие суммы, вы в курсе?
8, 10, 15, 20
О, 20 тысяч даже.
человеку, да.
А от чего зависела стоимость?
В
8 или
зависимости
20,
от препарата,
большая
какой препарат исследует.
Документ, который свидетельствует о том, что здесь проводили исследования препаратов Вальс, производства Микрохим Украины, и Диован, производства Новатис Фарма АГ Швейцария, с участием здоровых добровольцев. Количество субъектов 36 человек. Обратите внимание на интересный документ. Программа медицинской помощи по обслуживанию новорожденных детей. И эта программа включает, и в том числе пункт 1.7, проведение расширенного метаболического скрининга новорожденного с помощью тандемного масс-спектрометра проводится в Германии.
У них была такая программа, называлась «Пяточка».
Пяточка.
Да,
Это
они,
что значит?
когда рождается младенец, берут анализ с пяточки и заполняют кружочки кровью. И потом по этому всему, ну, как бы делают анализы.
По образцам крови, да?
Называлась программа Baby Screen. Много заказывали микрохим исследования, потому что мы считались как дитя микрохима. Фармбиотест считался компанией, ну как, они нам начисляли зарплату. Микрохим, фармбиотест. А вот здесь мы сейчас ходим, вот это была лаборатория.
Так.
Вот видите, вот такие дорфы валяются с сыворотками, это та же самая кровь. Открученная на вот таких вот аппаратах. Оборудование вывозили в Киев.
Когда?
Перед тем, как началась война.
Перед тем, как началась война, все вывозили?
В Киев, да.
Но тут много осталось
Осталось,
оборудования.
потому что они не успели вывезти. Это была биоаналитическая лаборатория.
Ага.
Там,
Здесь как раз исследовали...
там клиническая, тут биоаналитики.
Ага. Здесь как раз исследовали вот лекарства на состав.
Это уже когда исследования они провели, тогда уже биоаналитики занимаются следующими вот этими.
Давайте на третий поднимемся, где
Да.
вот пациенты лежали. Так, палата индивидуального наблюдения.
Ну это, допустим, вот тут был очень всевозможным оборудована палата, то есть дефибриллятор.
Вот человек лежал здесь, да?
Если вдруг
Исследует.
ему плохо, да.
Ага.
Если вдруг что-то не так, его сюда ложили. У них были у каждого добровольца свои, ну, графики.
Ага.
Они по ним отбирали ходили.
Сдавали анализы, да?
Да. А вот здесь
Все, вот это палата.
была
Ага.
лаборатория, в которой сразу, вот как они отобрались, в сухой лед вставляют пробирку с кровью, медсестра несет сюда, и здесь крутили, короче, все сразу
То
делали.
есть вижу, комната обработки
Да,
образцов.
да, да, да.
А вот это уже палаты, да?
Это уже пошли палаты, здесь кровати стояли.
То есть здесь вот добровольцы жили, да, пока
Да.
идет обследование?
Да, да, да.
Много добровольцев было? Ну,
Максимум-
в смысле, очередь была?
А, да, тут желающих куча было.
Докашенко Дмитрий Анатольевич, главный государственный санитарный врач Луганской Народной Республики. Сегодня нами был обследован объект на территории Рубежного. Согласно обследованию, констатировано, что здесь проводилась разработка фармацевтических препаратов, их клинические испытания и апробация, а также в рядом стоящем здании был организован уже непосредственно производственный процесс готовых лекарственных форм. Испытания проводились, судя по клиническим журналам, на жителях данного региона с их динамическим наблюдением и оценкой эффективности действия препарата или оценкой возможных их осложнений. Данные исследования проводились согласно, опять же, найденной документации на волонтерской основе за оплату.
Мы посмотрели, что здесь происходило. Корпорация «Фармбиотест» – легальное предприятие украинское, которое занималось исследованием лекарственных средств перед внедрением их в широкое производство, массовое производство. Исследования этих препаратов проводились на людях, на добровольцах, которым за это платили деньги. Что примечательно, последние несколько лет услугами корпорации стали активно пользоваться иностранные фармпроизводители, даже фармгиганты, такие как Pfizer или британские фармкорпорации. И исследовали они здесь на гражданах Украины свои лекарственные средства своего производства. В том числе, например, исследовали здесь лекарства AstraZeneca, опять же Pfizer против ковида. Объясняется это просто. Гражданам Украины надо платить очень небольшие деньги по сравнению с такими же исследованиями за рубежом. Граждане Украины выступали в качестве подопытных крыс для иностранных фармкорпораций. Вот и все.
Ukraine. There's the Nord Stream sabotage.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
And again, Seymour Hersh says it was the states that had carried that out. So there's all these things going on just to distract you, right? It's to distract everybody. Now, get back to the 2-year thing, right? So I probably need to go back to 2015. In 2015, I had suffered from a stroke, and I was at home, and I was advised today, brain training, right? These wee apps and what have you, to get because I had a stammer, right? I'd lost my speech and then I had a stammer. So I was advised to do this. And I kept on, while doing it, taking breaks in between the wee brain training things and maybe watching some video clips on YouTube, right? Because social media wasn't a big thing for me. And it'll not be again very shortly. I don't use social media like as a rule. I set up this tweet streak 2 years ago. I had a Twitter account. That was it. Didn't have Facebook, didn't have anything else. I've set up other channels and stuff like that just because the censorship, funnily enough. Because I had a plan in place. And a lot of folk I'm saying a lot of folk, some folk were asking me to do this, or to do that, or to do this, or to do that. Now, if I didn't do what you were asking me to do, it's because I don't mind wasting my own time, but I'm not too keen on other people wasting my time. And I was on a project, a personal project, no funded by anybody, never asked for any donations, don't want anything off anybody else. I just wanted to kind of bring to light how easy it is for these people to consistently lie. And you'll hear things like the battle for hearts and minds, right? Quite regular politicians will come away with battle for hearts and minds. No, they see it as a battle because your mind, your heart, right? Your mind should be free to be your mind. Your heart should be free for you to follow. If they can win over your heart and occupy your mind with their ideas, then they're winning the battle. You're losing it. So 2015, I was taking a break for the brain training that I was doing. And I went on YouTube and watched a video. It was a seminar type thing. And it was a guy talking about the world catching a cold. Now, this was 2015, right? And it went on to tell us about how there would be a cold starting in China and coming all the way across all different countries, then going back again, and then it would seemingly disappear. Now, this was 2015. I've said that, 2015. So I bookmarked that because I was wanting to chat to my old man about it and say, what do you make of this? When I went to chat to my old man about it, a couple of days later, it had disappeared. It had gone. Now, censorship's a thing. So it was obviously sensitive information that they didn't want getting out to the general public. So later on, after I'd watched that initial seminar thing, it was an English guy standing up my stage, giving his take on it. He'd been invited to things, and basically it was telling us about the world catching a cold. Now, once that finished, I'd bookmarked it. It was one of these strange days, right? It was one of these strange days. I'd bookmarked it so that I could talk to my old man a couple of days later when I would plan to go and see him. And I went back to my brain training thing. I started doing the wee bits. And every so often on this wee app thing, you get an advert coming up. Now, the advert that kept on popping up was for a job. And it was a job with the UK government. So I looked at the job and I thought, oh, that's quite interesting. It's things that I don't mind. It was a driving examiner. And I didn't mind As a matter of fact, I love going on a drive. I love going to see bits of the country. I found comfort and joy in getting out and driving and connecting with the earth and what have you. Walking bare feet along the beach, like climbing the nose. These were the kind of things that I used to enjoy, right? So I thought, oh, well, that's quite interesting. I never thought anything more of that job that particular day. But it just kept on popping up and popping up and popping up and popping up. A couple of days later, when I went to show my dad this YouTube video that I'd bookmarked to see what his thoughts were on it, because it was a 35-minute thing, 45 minutes. 35 minutes, 3/4 an hour or something. It wasn't there. It wasn't there. It was gone. It's no longer available on YouTube. And then, during that point, this job thing kept on coming, this advert kept on coming up when I was searching for other things. And I'd went to my work the next day and got notified that they were going to be doing around the redundancies, right? So I was just recovering from a stroke. I had time off while I was recovering from a stroke, and I thought to myself that I would be one of the names on the redundancy list, given the fact that there was a health and safety issue in the last place of work that I exposed, right? Put the target in my name back, right? So I applied for this job and went through an application process, going to Newcastle, doing like role play things, or just the usual stand-up stuff. So I got the job anyway, and I started on the 31st of October 2016, right? Got made redundant, started the job. Aye, right, so that was that. Now, when I worked with the UK government, like obviously you can go into the government websites and you can check for information and like policies, procedures, all that kind of stuff. But the same as if you work for a company, you get to see different things that the general population don't get to see. So there was a lot of internal jobs coming up. A lot of them were LGBT based, but there were others, mental health and well-being and all these kind of things. Right, so that's just additional information, really. That's just thought as additional information. And I'm a great believer in everything happens for a reason. Your life's mapped out for you, so to speak. Right, everything happens for a reason. And I do a fair bit of meditating and stuff like that. And as I say, I connect with the earth. I try and take my shoes off and just walk in the soil, walk in the sand. Try not to stone stains and that, because it's like stoning a bit of Lego, right? So but you do your wee bit. I ended up in a lockdown situation before there was a lockdown situation, because of an accident I had at my work. I've already mentioned that. I've had an accident and I lost my job as a result of it, right? But again, everything happens for a reason. Everything. So the 2 years, but I said I was going to do this for 2 years because I've got another project that's new started, and I was going to give 2 years max because I'd effectively been on a lockdown because of injury before everybody else was on lockdown. I knew there was going to be a mental health crisis because it was well advertised, and I knew that there was other things that happened or were going to be happening that for things that I'd watched before, and like keeping up to speed with the news and keeping up to speed with what's happening in different countries, like, and not just the mainstream, like looking at all the information that was available. Some of it was positive to the perspective that we get, some it was negative to the perspective that we get. So it's making a balanced decision in between what people are telling you, what people are not telling you.
But yes, I mean, I'm basically, if you said to me who is right in the argument, the no growth people or the let's go for growth people, I would certainly say the no growth people. But I'd add as a corollary to that, you have to get population under control as well, because if you look at it in sheer economic terms, how can you sustain increases in per capita income at a time when you have rising population without rising economic growth? Whereas if you have a declining population, which is what I would aim for, then of course even a stable economic growth situation will give you increases in per capita income. So that's where I stand on that.
Do you have a sense of what the carrying capacity of Britain is, or of the world as a whole? Or?
Well, Britain, I put it at 10 or 15 million. I think that'd be absolutely fine. I mean, that would do us really splendidly. At a limit, 2025, I think it's complete nonsense that we are now confronted with an island, would you believe it, of 70 million people. I wrote a paper, I think it's the only paper the Conservative Party has ever published, and it was published as an old Queen Street paper in June 1972, oddly enough. And it was called Britain Needs a Population Policy. And
you could still argue that today, I mean, right now.
I certainly could. But what has happened, of course, is that we have all been, as it were, shunted off course by what you might call the rise of political correctness, because you can't talk about this now without saying you're anti-feminist, because you're telling women what to do with their bodies, or you're racist, because you're saying it's the browns and the blacks and the yellow races who mustn't have, or you're a left-winger, because you're really trying to get at the capitalist society. So it's a very, very difficult one now, and I would say that at the very least, the governments of the world have to start talking. The government of this country has to start talking seriously about immigration, because if you look at the rise in Britain's population now, you will see that, as it were, there is a really serious differential in the fertility of the immigrant population to the fertility of what you might call the indigenous population. So anyway, but this is very political stuff, not one for Guardian readers.
And I put my trust in that I follow my heart. That's what happens. I use my brain. I don't allow anybody to corrupt it. And I use the thinking power that I've got and the means that everybody in the social world has got to find out information. So everything that I've shared on this, Tweet Street, how it was started with some caricatures, it was all things that were available on social media, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube, but social platforms. And I chatted to people. I got, like, every guest that we had on was a real person. There was nothing was set up, nothing was scripted. It was just a case of, well, see how the project pans out. So some people obviously didn't read the information that was available to them and didn't watch the what I'd said at the outset when I started. I started the first show, it was myself and two guests. The next show, I had JB Whitesnake as a co-host, and then for several shows after that, I had him, and try to freshen it up with bringing other people in and hearing different perspectives. Just so it wasn't just me that was talking. The conversations were real. There was nothing scripted. However, I'm approaching this project seriously, and it was satire, caricature, irony, mockery, but whatever. I didn't mock any of the guests. I don't have any of the guests that come on, and the conversations were just natural conversations. So 2 years is up on the 7th of March. Well, the 6th of March, effectively, because the 7th of March 2021 was the when the first podcast went. So we're almost at the 7th of March. And I think over the 2 years, we've seen and heard what's happening, or what people want us to believe is happening, and a lot of people have got doubts about that, about the truth getting shared. There's some interesting things happened, right? Like, I had a great conversation with a guy from Canada called Billboard Chris, and another great conversation with a woman from Canada called Heather. She's a reformed convict. She'd been in jail and talking about the trans issue.
Good morning. I am Sage's mother, better known as Nana. I adopted Sage after my son died when she was still a baby. She's been through 6 foster homes by then, but we loved her, and she blossomed into a joyful, lively girl who made music and art. Puberty began and COVID hit, and she was treated for depression and anxiety, at times very severe. Her teachers shared any concerns with me so her treatment could be adapted. The transparency ended in August of 2021 when Sage started high school. She started a public high school, and she told me that all the girls there were bi, trans, lesbian, emo, and she wanted to wear boys' clothes and be emo. Because I saw it as just a phase, it was fine with me. But at school, she told them something different. She was now a boy named Brooke Draco with male pronouns. Sage asked the school not to tell me, and they did not tell me, even though I informed them of her mental health history and medication. If I had known, this would be a much different story. She was terribly bullied. No one told me, but boys followed her, touched her, threatened violence and rape. Something happened in the boys' bathroom, but for 2 days, the school told me nothing. They kept meeting with Sage alone, and she became so distraught, they called me to pick her up. That evening, I found a hall pass labeled Draco, and Sage told me she was identifying as a boy, and that her counselor said she could use the boys' bathroom. She'd been jacked up against the wall by a group of boys. She was crying, terrified. I said, just stay home, we'll figure it out. That was my last conversation with Sage for 5 months. The night she ran, she thought to a young friend she'd met online. She left a note saying she was scared of what would happen if she stayed. The sheriff, FBI, search dogs were called in. I dropped to my knees in prayer. 9 days later, the FBI found her in Baltimore. My baby had been lured online, sex trafficked by DC, then Maryland. She was locked in a room, drugged, gang raped, and brutalized by countless men. It was night. The FBI told us to pick her up in Maryland the next morning. We packed our cars with blankets and stuffed animals and arrived by 8 a.m. But we were told we couldn't see her and were summoned before Judge Robert Kershaw late that afternoon. They didn't even tell Sage that we came for her. We finally entered the courtroom, and Sage appears on a huge Zoom screen from a prison cell. She looks tiny and broken, and I cry out, I love you, Sage. Sage responds, I love you too, Nana. But attorney Anissa Khan rebukes us. She is a he, and his name is Draco, not Sage. We were floored. What? Khan accuses us of emotional and physical abuse, that we are misgendering her. Even though we just learned she claims to be trans and we're willing to use any name and pronouns to bring her home. My husband was so tearful he kept forgetting the new pronouns, so the judge had the bailiff remove him from the courtroom. I was pleading for my child to be returned and treated for her unspeakable trauma. Judge Kershaw told me if I used the word trauma again, he would throw me out too. For over 2 months, he withheld custody. He housed Sage in a male quarters of a children's home. Sage told me she was the only girl and repeatedly assaulted. She was given street drugs by the other kids, and Khan told her she didn't care. She just wanted to win the case and all the way to Supreme Court if necessary. Khan tried to prove abuse, but we were eventually cleared by both states of all charges. Sage later told me Khan had told her to lie, that we hit her. Khan even had Sage's school counselors testify against us, though they barely knew Sage, and they didn't know us at all. Khan told my precious child I didn't want her anymore. I found out Sage never received any of the letters I sent her. Sage ran from the children's home and disappeared for months. They told me she might already be gone forever, but I couldn't give up, and I finally found a tip on her social media that led the marshals to her in Texas. She had been drugged, raped, beaten, and exploited. This time I was able to be with her for the traumatic rape exam and to bring her home. Back in Virginia, she entered the mental health facility that Judge Kershaw had ordered, as it would affirm her as a male. The therapist began pressuring her to have her healthy breasts removed. Sage was too scared to protest, but she asked me to secretly buy her girls' clothes because she wanted to be a girl, but keep them in the car. It took a kind lawyer, Josh Hetzler, to secure her discharge. After almost a year, Sage was finally home, safe, alive. Sage is receiving professional trauma care. The first trafficker has already been convicted. Sage has nightmares, panic attacks, rape-related medical issues, but there's hope. I told her she's not broken, she's just scarred. And part of that hope is that in courageously sharing her story, others will be saved. Sage said she doesn't know who she was back then. She wasn't a boy. She just wanted to have friends. But her school, the judge, the attorney, and the doctor were all blinded by their ideology. The consequences for Sage were unspeakable. Please don't let ideology harm another child. Let parents do our jobs. We know our children best, and we love them 1,000,000 times more. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I had Eileen Spence had come on with great information about the school system and how this was going to be impacting Scottish Wains. And Scott Forbes was another absolutely exciting conversation. There was quite a few good conversations that I had out here. Again, these things were pertinent to political lies and mainstream media bias. But with the wherewithal, what I was aware of, and where I was wanting to go with this, it was to just expose that it's happening round about you without you even realising it's happening round about you. And some people will go, "Oh, no, I did realise it." That's excellent, right? Now, the 100 views on YouTube, the 100's a significant number. Obviously, I'm Scottish, right? I believe in Scottish independence. My beliefs might be slightly different to a lot of people. I believe that Scotland is independent. It's the people that are me. And when I say independent, it's free, it's having sovereignty. You'll have heard what sovereignty is a big thing, but every nation has got sovereign people within that nation. And the political liars try and take your sovereignty to represent their means. That's the best way to put it. You know, if you just have a look at what's happening with Rishi Sunak talking about the Northern Ireland situation after Brexit, right? So there's these things that should all pull together and make a picture. Don't allow anybody else to make your picture. Make the picture yourself, because somebody else will point you to something that might not be accurate, right? Do it for yourself. Look for yourself. Find out for yourself. All the while in Scotland, we're getting distracted still with a leadership race that's got to put, I believe it's got to be Hamza Yusuf, it's got to be put in. It's then going to go to, was it 10-minute cities, 20-minute cities, 15-minute cities, whatever way you want to look at it, right? to try and take your sovereignty away. Don't consent.
What places can you visit within a 10-minute walk of your home? Many governments worldwide, including Scotland, are designing areas so that you can walk to a range of key places from your home. This means that going shopping, to school, the doctor, visiting a park, or meeting friends would take 10 minutes to walk from your home and 10 minutes back. This is called a 20-minute neighbourhood. Living locally can be good for our health and the environment. If you can access lots of places within a short walk of your home, it encourages us to walk or cycle more on these journeys instead of using a car. The Scottish Government plan to apply the 20-minute neighbourhood concept nationally. At the University of Glasgow, we have investigated the places that can be accessed within a 10-minute walk for all Scottish homes. We've found large differences in access to key destinations for people living in urban or rural areas and between the most and least deprived areas of Scotland. For example, people living in inner city areas of Glasgow are able to access lots more within a 10-minute walk of their home than people in remote Highland areas. Using this information, we have created an online map that lets you search for your home. It then shows you whether you have a food shop, park, school, cinema or library within a 10-minute walk. Use our interactive map to explore the places you can access locally. You can enter your home address or postcode, just like using Google Maps, to search and explore. Once you've explored your local area, we would like you to complete a brief survey which is based on the Scottish Government's Place Standard for young people. This is so we can ask you what you like or dislike about your local area and what other things you would like there. The survey shouldn't take long, just 5 to 10 minutes of your time.
But who gave these people the right to give away your sovereignty? Nobody. And if you don't speak up about it, then they will take that as your permission. Your silence is your permission. So it's up to the individuals. What is it they say? Together united will never be defeated, right? There's a lot to add to that. I digress, right? The 100, right? The 100 comes from the Declaration of Independence. Some might know it as the Declaration of Abroad. Declaration of Independence, 1320. Well, 100 of us remain, right? You know, if you're Scottish and you know about Scottish history, then you know what I'm referring to. So that was what the 100 views were. Really small, right? But in my head, that was all we needed. Just 100. Starts with 100. That's what it starts with. Now, when we set this up and got it going, as I said, I meditate. I take myself away and come to this every now and again. And for a wee while there, it was more regular. But I was just setting myself up for the wind down. Because as I said, to the 6th of March, then Tweet Street is no more. The page will still be there, the YouTube channel, the Twitter page will still be there. I'll still dip in and out, but you'll not see another one of these. You might see me going to things that I enjoy going to and putting on my YouTube channel, but you'll not see another one of these. You'll know what this is the finale. This is it. This is the culmination of the 2-year project. And I want to bring in some of the things that have happened. Because it's all advertised there. It's all satire, irony, taking the piss, right? To draw attention to where we're at, to keep the conversation of independence. I'm sure I said on one of the broadcasts that I'll have another one of these when Scotland becomes independent, and then I had another one the next week, right? Again, my idea is that Scotland is independent. It's just the people that only. It's a lack of belief. Now, wanted to keep the conversation of Scottish independence on people's lips because the government are trying to confuse people. Battle for hearts and minds. It's still going on. It's going on about you. So that was what I done. I sought out a co-host, a couple of different co-hosts, and try to freshen it up just to keep it going. But still with the same ethos as the starting point. Is that, well, I'm highlighting the mainstream media bias against Scotland and her people and the political liars. Now, some of the things
going to do when our ocean level rises?
Now you're full of shit. Sit down. I'm going to answer you. I'm going to answer. Shut up and sit down.
No way.
Sit down.
No.
If the water on the planet rise up 10 feet, that means the southern part of the United States is gone. England is gone. Most of Europe is gone. And I go, most of Central America is gone. And I'm jealous of the Vice President, Gore. I'm jealous he came up with a scam before I did. Because the financial institutions, the banks of this world know it's not going to happen. Otherwise, you couldn't get a goddamn loan in London. You know those 30, 40-year mortgages? The world will be over by then. Is Barclays Bank going to give you a motherfucking loan? With the greatest respect, ma'am, it's the greatest fraud that's been perpetrated on mankind this century.
This would not be the first time, if it happened, that a vaccine that looked good in initial safety actually made people worse. There was the history of the respiratory syncytial virus vaccine in children, which paradoxically made the children worse. One of the HIV vaccines that we tested several years ago actually made individuals more likely to get infected.
America is calling for a complete withdrawal from all treaties and influences of the United Nations and World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab and his fellow wannabe tyrants have come out into the open as the arbiters of world government. And they openly acknowledge that they must move quickly to be victorious. They want governments to be destroyed and the people to lose all faith in the nation state. Their plan is to starve the people into destroying their own governments so they can act as saviors. It is important.
Thank you. The First Minister will be aware of calls from the People's Vaccine Alliance for action to tackle vaccine inequality and ensure that life-saving vaccinations can be made across the globe. Given this is a global pandemic requiring a global response, will the First Minister join me in urging Boris Johnson to take action, including backing proposals to waive intellectual property rules to ensure equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines to protect the health of all people all around the world?
First Minister. Yeah, I do support the calls of the People's Vaccine Alliance. I certainly call on the Prime Minister to take whatever action he can to ensure that we get vaccines equitably to the population of the world as quickly as possible, but also take very seriously the responsibility on the shoulders of my government to make sure we are doing everything possible. COVID is a global crisis. It's very understandable that often we focus on the implications for ourselves in our own country, but it is an unprecedented global crisis. Earlier in the pandemic, the government allocated funding for our own international development budget to provide COVID support for partner countries Malawi, Rwanda, Zambia and Pakistan. The UK also participates in COVAX, which is an important way to help other nations access vaccines. But it is fundamentally the case, as Omicron is reminding us, that until everybody across the world is safe, none of us are truly safe. So we are very keen to explore further routes that support equitable access to vaccines. I will write to the Prime Minister on this to encourage him to take whatever action is necessary, but also to offer the full cooperation of the Scottish Government in doing so.
And the political liars. Now, some of the things, they got a wee bit strange after a wee while, but because folks started coming on and, but again, it was genuine conversations. I'll go back to my wee project pad. I'll take a wee picture of this and I'll post this on when I'm doing the edit, right? So through genuine conversation, right? The target was through genuine conversation. So I have genuine conversation with people. But people came to come on and to chat about things. But all the while, I don't really know that they knew what this was. And I've done an explainer, but I'll probably make all the episodes available again, because some of them were reported, some of them were taken down because of some of the things that were spoke about. But I'll make all the episodes available again on the YouTube channel for people to go back and let's see. And you'll need to try and distinguish what was satire, what was mockery, and what was irony. Like, I might not have done a good job on each part of that, but I followed my guide. My guide, like, just make sure that I keep myself within the boundaries of the law, and like, have genuine conversations. Bring to attention these things that people are lying about, politicians, mainstream media, bad faith actors, false prophets, right? False prophets, we'll call them. Because it's happening more and more.
And I have to say, when I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more, half of this cabinet are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
And that's true in Argentina too. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with the president, who is a young global leader, but what is important for me...
I'm going to tell it to you straight. I'm going to tell you the truth. Our darkest days are ahead of us, not behind us.
And now's the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there.
Just clap for that, you stupid bastard.
This would be the time, because you really need world order, financial world order.
This alternative vision argues that ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
We are here to develop the great narrative, the story for the future. But in order to shape the future, you have first to imagine the future, you have to design the future, and then you have to execute.
It's happening more and more, and hopefully more and more people can see it now. And but I always say to my kids especially, know everybody that smells at you is your friend, right? And you've got all these smiling assassins, right? You've got all these people that would smile at you 1 minute and stab you in the minute you walk past, stab you in the back the minute you walk past. Now I come from a place of love and looking after people and love, peace and light. That's it. And I thought I could try and do something with this project to highlight these folk that will tell you it's raining outside, and yet when you step outside, the sun's splitting the trees. Right? They'll say whatever. They're sponsored to say whatever direction they want to take you in, because it's the battle for hearts and minds. And if they can capture your heart so that you're not following your own heart, you're following the ideas that they want you to follow, then they'll do it. They don't give a toss about you. They don't give monkeys about you. No, I've always been for the wee guy. I've said this before, I know. Always been for the wee guy. And David versus Goliath, if you want to talk about things like that. The wee guy gets forgot about. The wee guy gets forgot about for pounds and pence. That's how I maintain that there would never be a fundraiser for this. There would never be any contributions needed. And folk try to ask me if I wanted donations and stuff like that, but no, that I wanted to take in enough. People pay enough for the things that they've got. They pay too much for what they get. Because some of my jobs have took me to like strange places and find out information. Like when I used to work with Centrica, it's Scottish Gas I started off with, and then it went to changed it to British Gas, then it was Centrica. Now, the energy is free, and it comes to certain points in the land where it's stored, and it's rich people that own that, so they then lease out the nodes and what have you to capitalists, who then capitalise on your misfortune because it's on their land. So, and it's just a different name that comes out in the bill, right? It's a game. It's all a big game that you're not a party, right? It's rigged so that you don't win. It costs you money every turn, and they'll tell you, oh well, we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll do the next thing and we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll do the next thing, because they know that people are moaning about these things. But if you all stand up together and tell them no, we'll not do it. We'll not do it. That's how it goes. It's that simple. And folk go, no, but I've got my job to worry about, and I've got this to worry about, and I've got that to worry about. But I used to be a slave, I know what I mean? I used to be a slave. Slave to the company. And go, I'm not getting paid enough for this. But I'm not getting paid enough for the rubbish that I'm having to deal with here, and the lives that I'm impacting negatively. That's how I really turned to meditation, and I get away and get some fresh air about my head and stuff like that. Because it was going against my inner self. That how would I feel if somebody was doing that to me? Well, they're paid to do it, that's their job. No, I'm a human being. I'm supposed to be looking out for folk. I'm making sure that, oh well, if you've not met this target and you've not met this target and you've not, because they tell me, then you're going to lose your job, which has got to mean that you're going to then potentially lose your house, your motor, blah, 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 blah. And the knock-on effect. They've got everybody captured by fear. The what if, what if, what if. That's how it is. That's how it is. I've babbled on enough about this. But as I say, guided quite spiritually is the best way I can put it. Always try and do what's right. Well, my family and the folk that I love, always try and do what's right with them. I fell a couple of times. I'm sure like everybody's fell a couple of times. But still, at the same time, I've learned through each of the falls that I've had. How did I fall there? All right, I'll try and avoid that in the future. And people get caught up. They get caught up with, well, what happens if this? What happens if that? I'm not a materialistic person. I'm not. I could cut about in sandals, ripped trackies, whatever. I could wear a suit, no comfy in it. Right? That was my job used to mean that I had to dress up for the office. Then they relaxed the dress wear. Oh, they kind of things, right? So, you've got your comfort zones and you've got your, oh, well, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do it. But I'm not going to be a slave for people. And that's what they're making every single person. Now, 15, 20-minute cities, like, oh, you're not allowed to roam freely on the land that you were born on. How? Because a rich guy in another country is saying that we need to do this. The climate scam, net zero. Connect with your inner self, meditate, listen to soak in water, listen to classical music. That's my tips, right? Take a walk, like enjoy the scenery, relax. It's the kind of things I do to try and keep my health from waning. Okay, you may pick up an injury here or there, a turned ankle or blisters or what have you. But still be happier up here. And a lot happier in here.
First off, a video. It's going to make you see the future and understand a wonderful future where we can use brainwaves to fight crime, be more productive, and find love. Let's roll.
Sensing your joy, your playlist shifts to your favorite song, sending chills up your spine as the music begins to play. You glance at the program running in the background on your computer screen and notice a now familiar sight that appears whenever you're overloaded with pleasure. Your theta brainwave activity decreasing in the temporal regions of your brain. You mentally move the cursor to the left and scroll through your brain data over the past few hours. You can see your stress levels rising as the deadline to finish your memo approached, causing a peak in your beta brainwave activity right before an alert popped up, telling you to take a brain break. Your mind starts to wander to the new colleague on your team, whom you know you shouldn't be daydreaming about, given the policy against intra-office romance. But you can't help fantasizing just a little. But then you start to worry that your boss will notice your amorous feelings when she checks your brain activity and shift your attention back to the present. You breathe a sigh of relief when the email she sends you later that day congratulates you on your brain metrics from the past quarter, which have earned you another performance bonus. When you arrive at work the next day, a somber cloud has fallen over the office. Along with emails, text messages, and GPS location data, the government has subpoenaed employees' brainwave data from the past year. They have compelling evidence that one of your coworkers has committed massive wire fraud. Now, they're looking for his co-conspirators. You discover they are looking for synchronized brain activity between your coworker and the people he has been working with. While you know you're innocent of any crime, you've been secretly working with him on a new startup venture. Shaking, you remove your earbuds.
What do you think? Is it a future you're ready for? You may be surprised to learn that it's a future that has already arrived.
Everything in that video that you just saw is based on technology that is already here today. Artificial intelligence has enabled advances in decoding brain activity in ways that we never before thought possible. After all, what you think, what you feel, it's all just data. Data that in large patterns can be decoded using artificial intelligence. We're not talking about implanted devices of the future. I'm talking about wearable devices that are like Fitbits for your brain. The newest way to monitor attention is through a device like this one. These are ear pods that are launching later this year. These ear pods, much like the video you watched earlier, are ear pods that can pick up brainwave activity and tell whether or not a person is paying attention or their mind is wandering. Okay, well, you might think, fine, but even if we can tell whether a person is paying attention or their mind is wandering, you can't tell what they're paying attention to. You would be wrong. It turns out that you can not only tell whether a person is paying attention or their mind is wandering, but you can discriminate between the kinds of things that they're paying attention to. Whether they're doing something like central tasks, like programming, peripheral tasks, like writing documentation, or unrelated tasks, like surfing social media or online browsing. When you combine brainwave activity together with other forms of software and surveillance technology, the power becomes quite precise. So what do we do with this? What do we do with technology that enables us to monitor brainwave activity for attention? Do we embrace it? Do we resist it? I believe that there is a pathway forward with such technology. We might soon even use the technology to help people wake back up. This is a haptic scarf that MIT Media Lab has developed, which uses brainwave technology in a responsive way to give a person a little buzz, literally, when their mind starts to wander, to help them refocus and hone their attention. I'm giving you the positive use cases because what I don't want the reaction to be is, let's ban this.
So as I say, I try and follow my guide, my spirit guide, whatever you want to say. So I've got a couple of these shout outs to give to people, as soon as this is the last episode. To my wife and my family, obviously. Because the only people that really knew about the project in its entirety was them and this was the ones in my house. Because they knew what I was doing, they knew what my setup was, they knew what my project was. I just brought other people into it and try to make it organic and try to make it something for folk to tune into, to get away from all the doom and gloom, and to have a laugh at the expense of these people that have everybody trapped. The rich elite got everybody trapped. Now, the project ends after 2 years, simply because I was kind of a housebound for 2 years. That was, again, it was my aim. I'll get 2 years because I was in the house for 2 years. Just there 2 years, right? But I didn't want to be pedantic and say I'm going to date for 2 years and 15 days or whatever it was. So it was to just put this to bed. And every one of the podcasts I've done, you'll notice once they're available that there's some with numbers and then there's just others. There's a wee bit of a story in that, actually. But I'll not give you the story. But hopefully when people look at it, they can work out what the story might be. What I will do though, is this is Tweet Street 121. Right? So allow me to.
I'm not 100% sure why I'm being asked to share this story, but I'm guessing it's because somebody needs to hear it. When I was 16, I went into what I thought was going to be a normal day at biology class. And when I walked in, All the desks were arranged in a circle in the middle of the room. And the instructor, who had always been a really amazing, loving, kind instructor, was super militant, super scary, and just looked at us and said, "Sit down, shut up. You are not allowed to move, to speak at all, and anyone who does will immediately fail my class." And we were all stunned. I get like, just thinking about it, because I was a straight A student and grades were really important to me, and I was just like terrified. So we're all sitting there silently, nervous out of our minds. And in the middle of this circle that we were all sitting in, there was one desk. And on this desk was a bowl with a goldfish in it. And he looked at us and he took the goldfish and he put it on the desk and he walked out and he shut the door. And we all just looked at each other. We're just like, what do we do? You know, like, obviously it violated like everything inside of me to like watch this fish die. And also, I heard the instruction. If you speak, if you get up, if you move, you will automatically fail the class. And so we all sat there looking to each other to do something because we didn't want it to be us. And what was a very painful, it felt like an eternity. It was probably like 2.5 minutes later. Hannah B, got up and said, "Fuck this," and took the goldfish and put it back in the bowl. And when she did that, he came out and he looked at all of us and he said, "Look what the world has done to you. You've betrayed yourself. For what?" And I think about that lesson all the time because I learned in that moment that I am never going to be that person ever again. That when I see something that is wrong, even if it's just me, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do what's right. And I've done that over and over again in my life in very scary situations. But I'm sad for people who haven't learned that lesson, because there are so many things that are wrong that if you're too scared to make a difference, you won't make right.
We have still a long way to go towards gender equity, but the progress we have made is fragile. And if we don't safeguard it, nurture it, and continue to build upon it, there is a real danger, in my view, in the years to come that it could go backwards. I'm Nicola Sturgeon, I'm the First Minister of Scotland. I think if more women are in leadership positions, that acts as a catalyst for change elsewhere. There's a wealth of evidence that whether we look at governments or the boards of companies or other organisations, if there is greater gender equity in the representation on these bodies, then decision making is more inclusive and better. If you look at climate change, women disproportionately are on the front line in climate change, particularly in the Global South. Women have child caring responsibilities, disproportionately have the responsibility to get food for their families, work in agriculture, and these are the women that are impacted by climate change right now. Equally, women will be on the front line of implementing the solutions to climate change. So if we can better involve women in those decisions, then the outcomes are going to be better represent what is needed and be more sustainable as a result. Other thing I would say though is it's not enough in and of itself to have women in positions of leadership. I think there is much more to be done to support women in those positions and to continue to tackle and challenge some of the barriers that women, even at the highest levels of decision making, still face. Women have been fighting these battles for generations. We have made progress, but sometimes it feels as if we take one step forward and 2 steps back. So we need to keep powering on to achieve equity, because we are most definitely overdue for equity.
Presiding Officer, in my view, choosing without good reason not to be vaccinated is deeply irresponsible. Getting vaccinated, on the other hand, is a civic duty, and it is the most precious gift we can give to others at this time.
I, Charles III, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of my other realms and territories, King, Defender of the Faith, do faithfully promise and swear that I shall inviolably maintain and preserve the settlement of the true Protestant religion as established by the laws made in Scotland in prosecution of the claim of right, and particularly by an act intituled An Act for Securing the Protestant Religion and Presbyterian Church Government, and by the acts passed in the Parliament of both kingdoms for union of the two kingdoms, together with the government, worship, discipline, rights and privileges of the Church of Scotland. So help me God.
So, for Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, for the satirical satire, for Cinnamon Bridges, aka Peter, thanks very much for everybody that tuned in early past 2 years. The target was 100 views. I think it was 23,000 that we got, so exceeded that target, but 100 would have done me. I just want to finish up with this.
First, I hope that all of you learn, if you hadn't known ever before, that all of you learn that you don't trust the political establishment in Scotland or in Britain.